Hey guys, I'm Urizi. This story is all about what if Naruto was assigned to Asuma and Team 10. Mizuki never got to shoot his mouth off at Naruto the night he took the Scroll of Seals. Other than skipping a half-manic monologue from him, what exactly did this change for everyone's favorite blonde ninja? Who knows? Before we proceed with the story, please like and subscribe to this channel if you liked the video, and don't forget to check the description for the other works of the author if you liked the story. Let's start. Chapter 14, Teen Outreach Summit. Kojima Ranch. By this time, Katashi had found that his cattle had been all cleared out of the pen that they had been put in after they had been allowed to graze for the day. The young rancher was panicking until Asuma calmed him down. "It's fine. My kids are already on it." "How do you know?" Katashi said in a panicky Phocian. "They could have been killed, or caught, or got lost, or who knows." "Aw man, I was just starting to get this place to work out for me," he said, crying heavy anime tears. Asuma cleared his ears out, not really wanting to see or hear a grown man cry in front of him, "because one of the guys that took your animals is laying dead just over the hill over there," he said, pointing to the left. "They probably headed on ahead to catch up and take the others on. But don't you worry. I'll be right behind them." He scratched his head. "Tracking isn't my strong suit, but with a large herd of cattle there aren't many places they could take them out of here. I doubt whoever took them knew we were even here." "Why?" Katashi wondered. Asuma smirked. "Because they actually tried taking the cattle in the first place. K hasn't returned yet, Satoshi Onizuma," Manabu remarked as he brought up the rear of the cattle that they had managed to steal from the Kojima ranch as they directed them down the forest path leading away from said ranch. Manabu was a thickly muscled man that had a brown mohawk on his head and red war paint over his eyes. He wore a tan pair of shorts and an open sleeveless jacket, and around his mouth he had a face mask that had a demonic mouth printed on it. The face mask had tubes coming from the back going into his jacket. "He should have caught up by now. We can't keep going slow like this if we want to get away clean." A tall, lanky man with a long mustache and shoulder-length brown hair made a pondering noise. He wore an olive sleeveless shirt and brown pants to go with the red bandana around his head as he calmly led the herd forward at the head. "Well then, I guess we'll just have to leave him behind, won't we? He was the most expendable of us anyway. As long as I'm still here then everything is fine, the plan will still go off without a hitch." "Of course, Satoshi Onizuma," Manabu said, not really caring much for the fate of their brother. If he is a liability then his fate is his own. He was only supposed to be the diversion anyway. If he was unable to get away from a ranch hand and the brats he keeps with him, then he wasn't strong enough clearly. "Not like you and I." "My sentiments exactly," Satoshi replied coolly in an even manner. "Get these cattle to pick up the pace, it's time to get moving." With Team 10, Naruto, Ino, and Shikamaru leapt through the thick trees of the forest surrounding the path that the cattle had been driven down. Shikamaru looked over at Naruto. "Can you sense anyone yet?" Naruto shook his head. "No, there are too many trees in the way. My range is getting better, but with all of this solid stuff in the way there's only so far I can scan out. All I can do is half a mile from an open spot anyway." He frowned visibly. "Like this, I can barely sense 500 feet. Shikamaru grunted. "Fine. Ino? How about you, any ideas?" "Don't look at me," she said in a stumped manner. "Maybe if we run into an owl or something I can take over a bird that wouldn't be too weird to be seen flying around so I can find them, but other than that I've got nothing." Shikamaru let out a sigh, but put his game face on as he got himself ready to put that brain of his to work. "Fine, they have to use the path through the woods if they really do have all of the cattle. We all know that the path is a troublesome bitch. I mean, why not just make the thing a straight shot right through? What's with all of the twists and turns? Who the hell designed this thing, a dash?" Shikamaru, Ino and Naruto yelled at him to get him back on track. "The plan." "Oh, right," he said, looking sheepish at being caught rambling. "Anyway, what I mean is, there's no reason for us to try to look for them and jump right into a fight against whoever took the stupid cows. The path in the woods has a ton of choke points. Ino uses some poisons and can take over bodies. I'm smarter than hell apparently, and we have with us the #1 unpredictable prankster in all of Konoha that has inexhaustible manpower by way of his clones. So who thinks that a little ambush is in order?" He finished with a smirk that Ino and Naruto returned. Just find a good spot and see if we don't blow them away. Ino said with a gleam in her eyes that scared Naruto and Shikamaru slightly. Ino. Shikamaru said matter-of-factly, we can't really blow them away. We can't kill the cattle, just remember that. They still belong to that Katashi guy and our job is kind of dependent on them staying alive. Of course. Ino said with her cheeks showing her embarrassment about actually forgetting about that fact. I knew that. It was a figure of speech. She turned away from Naruto and Shikamaru, both giving her deadpan looks with a huff. Both of you just shut up and find an ambush spot so we can put the damn plan together already. The cattle were steadily charging down the path directed from behind by Manabu, who was smirking behind his face mask. My jutsu is perfect for getting these stupid animals to toe the line. Satoshi ran ahead of the pack that he was directing, as is my own for making sure they stay together. Manabu K really served us no purpose towards our steering these cattle. When we cash in, I think his cut should be smaller than ours. It's only fair for amount of work done by each of us. How hard can it be to ensure a simple rancher doesn't come after us? He never was the brightest, you know. Manabu commented on their youngest brother K. He could have gotten himself lost, even though there's only one trail to follow. He's done simpler things in his time. He chuckled at their absent brother's expense. Keep K off of your mind at the moment. Satoshi said seriously, we're still busy. He pointed ahead, make sure they stay together, we can't lose any on that cliff, if any fall off then injured cattle are no good to us. Up ahead of them the sides of the path elevated into pair of forested cliffs surrounding the path on both sides. One of the cattle seemed to stumble in their steps before turning away from the pack and heading up into the exact area that Manabu was instructed to keep them herded away from, as if the thing just went crazy. Manabu blanched before breaking away from his spot at the back of the pack. He was on it before Satoshi ever even barked out his order. Get the thing back in line with the others. That's good money that's running away, you fool. Satoshi shouted at Manabu as the latter took off after the wayward livestock. I'm not stopping for you either, so you had better hurry up, we've had enough hindrances to what should have been an easy job tonight. I'll get it back quickly, Asuma. Manabu said fearfully as he chased after the single far-gone animal. Satoshi glared as his brother disappeared into the foliage to chase after their potential money. Why are my family members so incompetent? He said to himself before shrugging. Fine, I don't need them anyway. My skills are more than enough to get these cattle to market to sell. Stupid steer. Manabu muttered out loud as the animal came into sight. For a stupid cow, that thing took to the woods as if it knew where it was going, but it could only go so fast, and with his ability he could get the damn thing back to the rest of the herd in no time flat. Eventually the fleeing animal came to a stop in the middle of the woods and looked around in confusion as if it didn't know how it had just gotten there. What, did it realize that cows and cattle have no business being anywhere inside of a forest or what? Wait. Manabu thought, this was too easy, it should have kept running no matter where it was going. He narrowed his eyes as in the moonlit forest he could see shadows stirring and jumped into the trees to avoid one of those moving shadows that just so happened to be moving towards him, a trap. He growled out, I didn't know there were even any other ninja in the area besides us. In hiding nearby, Naruto turned his head as he sat crouched down. Ino was stirring from her place being carried on his back, her body coming back into use after her successful Shintenshin no Jutsu, mind-body switch jutsu, on the steer. That was good, Ino. We couldn't finish him because he smartened up, but we separated them, that's good. Ino's sense of awareness quickly returned to her and she got off of Naruto's back. Shika didn't get him. Naruto shook his head, damn. Meanwhile, where Shikamaru had been hiding, away from Ino and Naruto, the boy didn't seem to be too concerned with his shadow missing its mark. Even a genin like him or one of his teammates would have felt the suspicion of walking into this situation. It wasn't that big of a deal that he dodged the first move. Every good opening ploy is a gambit after all, something that could end the battle or set the tone for the entire engagement. Shikamaru pulled out a kunai and cut a nearby wire that released a spring-loaded trap that launched over a dozen kunai in Manabu's direction. The large man vacated his spot from the tree he had taken refuge from Shikamaru's shadow in and landed back on the ground. Shikamaru didn't panic and launch his shadow in a desperate bid to capture the man. He had to be smart and pick his spot. There would be plenty of times to end things. It was 3-on-1, they knew where he was, he didn't have that advantage. "Whoever you are," Manabu said, cracking his knuckles in a foreboding manner, "I suggest you leave right now and let me get back to my work. You don't want to tangle with me tonight, ruining what had been a good mood for me would be a bad idea." From their hiding place, Naruto was ready to pull out his machete and take the bastard on at the first opening. "How you feeling, Ino? Good enough to take this guy down a peg?" she said, pulling a senbon from her supply pouch. Hey, Haku had made using them seem like something worth picking up. "I'm not very good with these yet, but if I hit him with even one, wherever I hit it'll be no more good for a few minutes at least. If I get a leg he'll slow down enough to be easy to finish. It's coated in the paralyzing poison I used on myself earlier." Her eyes darted towards his and blue met blue. "Whenever you're ready." Naruto nodded and braced his muscles to prepare to attack. "The second I take off, let em fly." Ino cocked her arm back and the second she saw Naruto make a step forward out from their cover she threw the senbon she had in her hand and frowned when she could just feel that it didn't fly right. "Damn it, my aim from far away is still terrible. How'd Haku get so good with those things?" Naruto ignored Ino's miss as he saw Manabu turn his head after easily dodging her senbon. Naruto reached towards his waist for the handle of his machete, but he saw Manabu's eyes widen as he got closer. "A stupid brat." He rushed forward to meet Naruto and just as Naruto pulled back to unsheath his weapon, Manabu grabbed him by the wrist he was using to pull out the weapon and threw him hard away from himself. "Are you kidding me? Fine, I'll just squash you quickly and get back to business," he said, marching towards Naruto before finding himself caught in place. A smirk came to Naruto's face as he picked himself up off of the ground. "Wow, Shikamaru, did I give you enough of an opening there or do you want him to throw me harder?" Manabu's eyes turned towards the direction where he heard a chuckle. "Well, it's not like I thought he was actually going to grab you and throw you. That's more your thing, isn't it?" Shikamaru sighed and made a motion with his foot to ensure that he had Manabu caught. "You think this can hold me, you brats?" Manabu said with a growl, beginning to use brute force to power his way out of the hold. Naruto and Ino, who was still in hiding, noticed Shikamaru focusing on holding his rat seal, straining heavily. "Man, this guy's a powerhouse. He's actually breaking my hold on him. Damn it." Naruto and Ino both said simultaneously, one moving with a machete to hurriedly end the man's life before he broke free, the other moving from her cover to attempt to cut him off with her Shintenshin no Jutsu to stop his struggling. The noise of Manabu biting into something from behind his face mask sounded out before a loud slurping noise followed it. Naruto was the first to reach Manabu due to his being faster than Ino, prompting her to back off lest she wind up getting herself killed after switching bodies. This time Naruto freely drew his machete and held it over his head to unleash a downward slash to Manabu. "Shikara no Honshitsu, essence of power," Manabu exclaimed in a gravelly voice before actually breaking through Shikamaru's jutsu and unloading a vicious punch directly to Naruto's body that sent him bouncing off of it like a rubber ball. "I told you that wouldn't hold me," he said as his body seemed to double in size and mass, veins clearly visible all over the bared parts of his body, arms, legs, and all over his forehead just to name a few places. "Naruto." Ino ran towards him as she saw his body bounce off of the ground a few times before smacking into the trunk of a tree. Naruto let out a pained groan as he pulled himself into a sitting position. "Are you alright?" Naruto's breathing was slightly labored as Ino helped him back up. "Luckily this tree was here to stop me," he muttered, holding his back. "Am I too young to slip a disc?" he asked, holding his back as his legs shook underneath him. Meanwhile Shikamaru was being pursued by Manabu, intent on not letting the hulking menace hit him. He somehow had to keep the man busy while Naruto recovered. Ino would be helpful in that regard, but after seeing Naruto get cracked it would probably have been better to have someone with him while he got his legs back beneath him, if he would be able to recover. So that left it up to him. Troublesome, Shikamaru said to himself as he got on his proverbial bicycle and got the hell out of Manabu's way, as the punch aimed at him hit the ground where he had been and formed a crater. "This guy's all size and no brain, but even with no brain all that muscle he could still beat us." Ino and Naruto could see Shikamaru keeping Manabu's attention by being elusive, but his jutsu could simply be broken by this monster of a man, so his shadows were useless at the moment. "He needs our help," Ino said, preparing to help now that it was clear all Naruto needed was a moment to rest up. Naruto moved himself before cringing in pain and holding his torso. "Gah, it hurts. I swear he must have broken some," he said, talking about his ribs as he slid to the ground. Ino nodded and Naruto stopped her arm when he saw her guiding a senbon towards him. "What are you doing?" Ino blinked when she felt Naruto holding her arm in his grasp and answered, as the more time they wasted the worse things would be. "My poison is more of a simple numbing agent. If I can stick you right where you hurt, I can at least make it so that you can't feel what hurts. It's dangerous though, because you can't tell how hurt you are until it fades, but..." She trailed off, looking at Shikamaru. Naruto also looked out at Shikamaru as he saw Manabure rip a tree from its roots to swing at the pineapple-haired genin, narrowly missing him. "Fuck it, go ahead and do it," he said, lifting his shirt and windbreaker and showing her his torso that had deep bruising from where he was clearly badly injured. Ino winced at the sight before putting it in the back of her mind and lining up his injuries in conjunction with where she knew his organs were, lest she shut one down by accident. As she stuck him with the needles, she saw his eyes cloud over in something akin to relief. "Do you feel better?" she asked him. "Can you still move?" Naruto wiggled his arms and legs and stood back up on spaghetti legs. "It'll have to do, Dateba yo," he said, looking at Manabu battle Shikamaru. "This guy's so slow, but he's like a bull." "You're telling me he's bigger than an actual bull?" Ino said almost fearfully before her eyes locked onto something nearby. "Huh. I'll be right back," she said almost trance-like as she ran off somewhere. Shikamaru grunted in effort as he could feel the wind from a missed punch by Manabu's hulking arms. "Man, that one would have ripped my head off if it hit me. Come on, I can't just keep running away. Doesn't this guy ever get tired with all of that muscle?" "Incoming!" Multiple Naruto voices shouted as they jumped from the trees around both Shikamaru and Manabu. Shikamaru got the hell out of the way as 20 Naruto clones surrounded their enemy, with a few even landing on Manabu's massive shoulders. These clones were prepared to cut into the man's neck, but they were grabbed and thrown away violently, dispelling on impact with whatever they hit. The remaining clones, however, were able to charge in and deliver slashes to his body. "Good to see you up and about, Naruto," Shikamaru said as the original Naruto stopped at his side. "One sucker punch isn't going to beat me no matter who it is." A frown then crossed the blonde's face as he looked at the bruises under his shirt again. "Besides, I doubt I'm going to get hit by too many people stronger than this guy anyway." Elsewhere in Hinokuni. "Achoo!" A blonde woman at a bar sneezed, alerting the sleeping pet pig nearby that freaked out momentarily at being abruptly jolted awake. The well-endowed lady wiped her nose and grunted as the cup of sake she had been holding spilled all over the place. She just shrugged and filled it back up happily, not letting that ruin her night. She had given her assistant the slip for once. This was her night. Naruto and Shikamaru didn't know what to make of it once they saw Manabu begin wildly swinging his arms, knocking Naruto's clones away in multiple amounts. I know I didn't cut his throat or anything, but shouldn't he be bleeding out by now? This is a machete. I cut him all over the place." "Yeah," Shikamaru said with a bead of sweat rolling down his face. "This is getting annoying more than anything." "You stupid brats," Manabu yelled at the top of his lungs once he finished off the last of Naruto's clones. "You can't beat me like that. My muscles are expanded and tempered by the effects of a secret serum my village created." He started laughing to himself. "It's like cutting through layers and layers of nothing but the toughest muscle. You'll never hit anything vital enough to even slow me down, let alone wound me badly enough to kill me." "Ideas?" Naruto asked, holding up his machete, ready to keep fighting, because my plan would have been to just keep cutting chunks out of his ass until he stopped moving. "Brilliant," Shikamaru quipped sarcastically. "I think I've got an idea, but it's going to be explosive as all hell. You remember that time we were supposed to clear that noble's house in Konoha of rats and vermin and how that worked out?" Naruto nodded in remembrance. "Yeah, we're going to be doing that again, only on purpose this time. Now where's the stupid cow Ino let out here?" He wondered, as he would have to account for where it was to make sure whatever their next move was didn't kill it or injure it. Moo. And just like that, Manabu was smashed from behind and knocked away by the cattle that had been forced to head away from the herd by Ino's jutsu. The speed and momentum that the animal had built up had been placed behind that smash that seemed to knock even the steer itself for a loop. Naruto pointed at the valuable animal and exclaimed, "Holy crap, did you see that? That was awesome." Naruto waved his arms at the thing that had just given them some help. "Thanks a lot, that was great." He was taken back slightly when he saw the animal apparently wink at him. "Okay." Shikamaru smirked, "That was Ino Naruto." When he saw the cow seemingly stumble about for a moment, he nodded accordingly. "Great. This guy still doesn't know that Ino can do Shintenshin no Jutsu. She still has her trump in her back pocket." Manabu slowly got back up holding his back. "Gah. Am I too young to slip a disc?" he said to himself as he slowly straightened out, his back cracking. "Get him now, Naruto." Manabu was then seemingly mobbed by a gang of Naruto's Kage Bunshin that seemed to latch onto his every appendage, holding him down. When it looked as if he would begin to move to get rid of them, they would seem to multiply and hold him down even more. "Your jutsu." Manabu managed to grit out from between his teeth, "It's different from his, but it has so many advantages of its own." Naruto didn't know what he was talking about and didn't care. All he knew was that Manabu was primed and ready for the finish. "Okay Shikamaru, do it." "Gladly." Shikamaru pulled out a kunai with an explosive note attached to it that he began to burn down before throwing it at their enemy. "You idiotic punk kids can't kill me like this," he exclaimed as they could see the cloth of his face mask ruffle. "Yeah, we can," Shikamaru replied before throwing the kunai, "just like this," he said right as the weapon buried itself into Manabu's chest that the clones left exposed. The man let out a gasp just as an explosion rocked the woods, knocking down trees on top of the fiery explosion that resulted. Shikamaru sighed and sat down on the forest floor. "And that's game, people." Ino wandered out of the surrounding area holding her head. "Kami, I swear headbutting that jerk in the cow's body gave me a concussion." "What was he made of? Bricks?" Naruto sighed, feeling an ache in his body again, though it was more muted now than before. "Man Ino, did you not put too much of that stuff on the senbon you stuck me with? Because it's wearing down." "No way," Ino said, "that was one that I had prepared for actual fights. You shouldn't have been able to feel anything that I stabbed for at least an hour." She couldn't see how his body burned through the poison so quickly unless he had the immune system of the gods or something like that. "Let's go," Shikamaru said, pulling himself back up to his feet. "We've still got to get the other guy before this really ends. I don't even want to think of how far away he got while we were fighting. We're going to have to move it to catch up to him. Stupid brats." The trees that had fallen on top of Manabu after Shikamaru's explosive note were tossed casually aside as Manabu stood back up, towering above the kids larger than ever, smoke billowing from his mouth. His clothes were in smoldering tatters, he had a wound that didn't seem to be bleeding at all on his chest, and his skin was covered in burns. In some places on his body he was burned enough for the muscle to be seen underneath his flesh. Naruto's eyes widened. "Holy shit, did he get bigger?" the blonde asked, machete back up and ready to fight. Shikamaru shook his head as if he were hallucinating. He took a point-blank explosion, his arms were spread wide open, and his mouth was wide open when it went off. "Why isn't he dead?" "You can't kill me," Manabu yelled to the wilderness. "No matter what you do, my body can just create more muscle to make my body denser and protect my vital areas. You can't reach anything that can kill me. You can't win. With my serum fueling me, you can't win." "I don't know." A mature, calm voice said from around them, "I think they've been kicking your ass pretty good so far." From the surrounding area walked out Asuma with his trench knives already out and at the ready. "You three get moving and get to the kettle. Guys like this are stubborn ones. Hard to take down fast, kind of like cockroaches." Ino looked over at their sensei worriedly. "Asuma sensei, he's tough as nails. He's been taking everything we've been throwing at him." "I can take him, Ino, it's okay," Asuma said with a smile, reassuring her. "Now go on and get out of here." Manabu sneered from behind his face mask. "You think I'll just let them leave?" "Yes," each member of Team 10 said blandly before Shikamaru reached into his supply pouch and threw a flash bomb. After the flash, the only one still there was Asuma. "I guess Shikamaru being number one at running away works out after all. Now let's get acquainted, shall we? I'll make short work of you," Manabu said, punching into his palm. "Now that I don't have those kids splitting my attention, I can focus on just one target." Easy. Asuma didn't seem very concerned by his large opponent. That's funny. I was just about to say the same thing, I was just going to be nicer about it than you seemed to be. Manabu used even more of his serum and bulked up to now over 3 times Asuma's size. I'm going to kill you, and if your runts catch Satoshi Onizuma then he'll kill them too. You sure? Asuma asked, because they seemed to have killed your other brother back on the ranch and handled you pretty well before I got here. A scoff came from Manabu. K was easily the weakest of the 3 of us. That fool probably killed himself by holding his own kunai the wrong way. But Onizuma, he's stronger than me. A shake of the head came from the towering man. Those kids don't have a chance, just like you. He shouted before grabbing into the ground and ripping up a chunk to throw at Asuma. Asuma moved out of the way of the earthen projectile that had been directed at him and rushed towards Manabu, who cocked his fist back to meet the man. Asuma slashed as Manabu threw his punch and cut clean through his punching arm, leaving a stump attached where it had been cut from. Rarg. You cut off my arm. Duh. Asuma said as he watched his opponent recoil and step backwards as blood poured from his wound. What did you think would happen? Manabu was only grateful that his jutsu made his wounds close quickly, or else he would have bled out. He may have been missing an arm, but at least he was still alive. Nothing has cut through my entire body before when I've used this much of the serum. He then began chuckling darkly through his pain. I guess I just need more. I guess I just need to kill you now. Asuma said, not wanting to see how much of that serum he spoke of the man could use. From the looks of him, he had been using it to fight his kids the entire time, and if he could still use more, that would make things harder than they needed to be. Asuma muttered the name of his technique that had severed Manabu's arm as he planned to end the battle right there. Hein, flying swallow, dot. Asuma kept himself far wide of Manabu's arm as he cut into the right side of his chest with his extended wind chakra blades from a slight range. Blood spurted from the wound and from Manabu's mouth as Asuma had managed to cut all the way through his tough muscle not once but twice. How? He asked as he dropped to his knees. Wind chakra can cut through pretty much anything. Asuma said, putting his trench knives up. Bad luck for you, but even if I hadn't fought you, my team would have beaten you themselves. It was just a matter of time. I like my team way more than I thought I would at first. Konoha's got some good future stock if those kids are any indication. Konoha. Manabu said, his eyes growing heavy. I see. No wonder they were so persistent and rather talented, and why you were so overwhelmingly strong. But Satoshi Onizuma won't be as easy as me. His jutsu is the most powerful one that we took from our village of Kyuzagakur, the most troublesome one out of all of us. They referred to him as Fukusei no Satoshi. Manabu said as his eyes closed and he slumped forward, still on his knees. Satoshi the Replicator. Asuma said, translating Manabu's brother's apparent epithet. A grin slowly formed on his face before he started laughing harder and walked over to the dead body, planning on possibly taking it back to Konoha with him much like the other. Pulling out a sealing scroll, Asuma set it down as his laughter subsided. Replicator. He cracked up and started laughing again. Okay, I guess I need to hurry this up and get that cow back to the ranch. With Naruto, Ino, and Shikamaru. Damn, this is wildery. Ino complained as another branch smacked her across the face. Why are we taking the way covered in the most underbrush? Shikamaru rolled his eyes. So we can cut off the last guy who still has to take a beaten path with all of the cattle. His eyes then widened in inspiration. Wait, I have an idea. Naruto, how good are you at henge? Naruto shrugged his shoulders. You guys both know that I'm awesome at henge. Shikamaru looked over at Ino and then back at Naruto. Do you think you and Ino could work out a single transformation? Anytime. Naruto said with a smile while Ino looked apprehensive. Come on Ino, we've got this. It's just a henge. Good. Shikamaru said, his plan for approaching the final cattle rustler all mapped out in his head. When we get close, be ready for it. Satoshi found it far easier to move the cattle once the path he was on set itself into being surrounded by the cliffs. The walls that had raised up basically kept the cattle corralled as they moved along. His job was simpler this way. Satoshi Onizuma. He turned his head to see Manabu making his way back over to the back of the pack with the missing cow back in the lineup. I see, you've returned. A smirk came to his lips. Did you have trouble finding the cow? Manabu grunted, the stupid creature had me running all through the woods chasing it down. Did you have to use your serum to get it back here? Satoshi asked offhandedly. Manabu nodded, not that his brother could see it. Yes, I did. A nod came from Satoshi before he abruptly turned, stopping the herd, and launched himself at Manabu, who wound up being kicked in the stomach away from the herd. Upon being hit, Manabu turned into Shikamaru, who sat on his butt holding his stomach, troublesome. Satoshi slowly walked towards him, glaring at the Konoha genin. If you had been Manabu and you had used the serum the way you said you did, then you wouldn't be that large. You would be rather puny. The serum was always running through his system as long as he stayed hooked to it. It was just that taking it directly through his mouth allowed him to greatly increase his mass and strength. He then smirked, good try though, and a good gamble by bringing me the actual cow that ran away. Shikamaru returned his smirk, and Satoshi wondered why he was when he heard a popping noise behind him and turned to backstep out of the way of a machete slash that was aimed right at his face. Ino, however, was able to take advantage and launch a kick that hit Satoshi right in the body and sent him stumbling back towards Shikamaru, who had initiated his own attack, Kagemon no Jutsu, Shadow Possession Jutsu. Satoshi backflipped over Shikamaru's shadow and Shikamaru himself, kicking him in the back to get him away from him. I see, so you must have defeated Kei and Manabu, hence why they aren't here. He shook his head, very well. I didn't need them anyway. Ino narrowed her eyes at the uncaring man. They were your teammates, don't you care about them? They were more than my teammates, they were my brothers. Satoshi said, putting his right hand over his head before deadpanning at them, and no, I don't. Who needs a team when you're your own team? I didn't even need them for this job, I could have done it myself. How? Naruto asked, even if you were good at solo missions you still need a team for something like this. How could you keep all of the cattle going how you wanted them to? Because of my jutsu. He exclaimed as he brought his hands up to form a seal that made all of Team 10's eyes widen. I'm more than a one-man team, I'm a one-man army. His hands were in the cross seal that Naruto used pretty much every day, Tajuya Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, multiple shadow clone jutsu. In a puff of smoke that surrounded them all, Team 10 found themselves surrounded by 30 copies of Satoshi. Wow. Ino said, looking around, he can do this jutsu. Looks like it. Shikamaru said. Do you see? Satoshi said, all of his clones smirking in a manner similar to him. All I had to do was steal this kinjutsu given to Kusagakuer as a show of good faith from Konoha, and now I am my own army. No team of ninja can defeat me. He said, sweat on his brow from the exertion of the jutsu. Naruto, however, was far from impressed. So this is all you can do? You and your clones look half dead. Shut up, brat. Satoshi growled, sneering at Naruto, who didn't seem to be shaken in the least. What would you know about my magnificent technique? Naruto simply brought his own hands up in the same seal that Satoshi had formed. The missing ninja's jaw dropped as he felt his advantage fall immensely after seeing the grin form on Naruto's face and hearing the boy call out his jutsu in response to Satoshi's own, Tajuya Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, multiple shadow clone jutsu. In an even larger puff of smoke, surrounding all of Satoshi's clones as well as Ino, Shikamaru, and the original Naruto in the center, there stood Naruto's clones, all drawing their machetes and smirking. I think I know a little more than you about it. Satoshi counted out a number that DWR fed his clones as he stopped counting once he saw the number reach 150. How? I had to steal this jutsu. I had to be outlawed from my own village to learn this jutsu. Why does a brat like you know it? It's a Konoha kinjutsu. Naruto flicked the metal of the headband tied around his neck bandana style, drawing attention to the leaf insignia on it, basically saying he was from Konoha. I stole it too, by accident after I got tricked. But I did manage to get this jutsu out of the deal and I wound up graduating for it, so I guess everything worked out. You did it just to be greedy though, and for your information you suck at using this jutsu. With that, Ino and Shikamaru were switched out from being surrounded by Naruto's clones who used Kawarami to quickly get them out of the circle they were in. You can't beat me. Satoshi shouted, I'm the master of this jutsu. Not anymore. Naruto said as his clones moved in to attack while other clones bombarded the surrounded clones of Satoshi from the cliffs with weaponry. Meanwhile Ino, Shikamaru, and a few other Naruto clones led the cattle away. The original Satoshi crawled away from the melee of his clones being obliterated by the sheer numbers and coordinated assault from Naruto's own. He got back to his feet and prepared to run when he found himself caught in place. Gotcha! Behind him, Shikamaru had managed to catch him in his family's signature jutsu, Kagemon no Jutsu, Shadow Possession Jutsu, and I don't think this guy is going anywhere this time. Satoshi growled before he felt a pull and smirked. In a puff of smoke, a clone had managed to switch places with the original, allowing him to escape Shikamaru's grasp. Naruto! Ino yelled out as she ran back towards the fray between Naruto and the few remaining Satoshi clones. Give me a boost. One of the Narutos heard her yell and held his hands in a way that allowed him to boost and throw Ino into the air per her request. While in the air, she saw one Satoshi escaping the battle and aimed herself at him, smirking as she drew a pair of senbon and held one in each hand. Incoming, you asshole! Ino said as she descended upon him and stabbed him, once in lower back, once in the upper back, and she smiled brightly once he dropped to the ground bonelessly. Got him! Who? Naruto's clones all cheered after getting rid of Satoshi's. The clones went overboard with their celebration, throwing their weaponry into the air. Oh, what the fuck did you idiots do? The original Naruto yelled as he freaked out and ran away from the falling weapons before cancelling his clones and their raining weapons of death. Shikamaru and Ino watched him with a sweat drop as he checked himself over for any self-inflicted injuries before finding none and crossing his arms, squinting his eyes. Yep. I'm the master, he said with a grin. Great. Shikamaru said as he pointed at the paralyzed Satoshi and then at the cattle that Naruto's clones had been keeping from wandering off. Now have to drag that guy back to the ranch and get the stupid cows back there too. Easy. Ino and Naruto both said simultaneously. They both grabbed the paralyzed Satoshi and threw him on the back of one of the cows while Ino tied him to it. Ino grabbed Shikamaru and forced him to climb onto one as well, while Naruto got behind the cows and made more clones while pulling out his machete. Get your asses back to the ranch or you will be my dinner tonight. He yelled manically, waving his machete wildly. I didn't get to eat tonight, dammit. 2 days later, Konohagakure no Sato. The mission concluded the next day, as the amount of work Katashi forced his younger cousin Shigeru to do put the majority of the protective fence up double time than what had been put up the previous day. Naruto still found it hilarious that the brat couldn't even look at him or Ino and make direct eye contact, and also found it hilarious that the girl Kiyomi spent the rest of the time trying in vain to hit on Shikamaru, something that he and Ino teased him about all the way back to the village. From that point everything went smoothly, and the Konoha ninja, with Satoshi in tow, headed back to their village to conclude their mission that probably got raised a level again. As Team 10 returned from their latest mission dragging their prisoner behind them, Naruto held his arms open and turned his head up to the sky. Oh man, thank goodness. That mission sucked. Asuma let go of the end up the rope that Satoshi was tied up with and grabbed a cigarette as a pair of umbu dropped down surrounding the prisoner. Yeah, this guy is supposed to be a missing ninja from Kusa. He then tossed them 2 scrolls. They are 2, but they're dead. I'll report it to Hokage-sama myself though. The 2 umbu nodded and took Satoshi away, allowing Asuma to light his cigarette, and that's the mission, kids. You can all go on home now. Yay. Naruto, Shikamaru, and Ino all said in a half-hearted manner. Lazy punks. Asuma muttered, exhaling some smoke as he shook his head. Alright, meet me tomorrow somewhere for lunch so dash dot. Ichiraku ramen. Naruto perked right back up as he bounced in place excitedly. Asuma just stared at him before continuing to speak. Yeah, sure. Anyway, meet me tomorrow for lunch at noon, at Ichiraku ramen. He added, getting a grin from Naruto. No training, no missions. Just so we can meet up for a bit. Got it. He got nods from all of them. Good, now I'm going to go debrief and then spend the rest of the afternoon doing Asuma stuff. He finished as he began to walk away. Ino smirked. Tell Kurenye-sensei I said hi. She said slyly. IWI-. He turned and gave a glare at his female genin before sighing and continuing to walk away. A team full of smartasses. I'm so lucky. He muttered sarcastically. And I dash. Naruto said loudly, getting everyone's attention before getting a conspiratory look on his face. I'm going to split a goddamn leaf if it's the last thing I ever do. He growled and started stomping off on his own. Where are you going, Naruto? Ino asked him. Home. He said, waving over his shoulder. See you guys later. Shikamaru rubbed the back of his neck. Hey, do you guys want to hang out or something? He looked towards Naruto. At your house, because if we went to my house my mom would be troublesome. Ino then thought about how her dad picked on her and Naruto when he showed up at the flower shop and agreed with Shikamaru's idea of not going to her house either. Yeah, I could do that, but it's Naruto's choice. Now this was rather confusing. Naruto had never really had anyone at his house except for the Hokage a few times. Other than that, he was unaccustomed to anyone coming over to his house. But they were his teammates, and friends as far as he was concerned, so what the hell, why not? Sure. He said, somewhat thrown off, but other than that he just decided to roll with it. Meanwhile, Hokage Tower. Asuma found his way into the mission control room only to find the room full of some of the more prominent jonin in the village and many of the chunin. I was going to debrief, but it looks like it's kind of busy in here. He looked over and saw a man with brown hair and dark eyes with bags under them that wore his headband like a bandana on his head and had a katana on his back. Hayate, what's going on? Hayate coughed before speaking. Well, Hokage-sama called for a meeting after it was told that you were back in the village from your mission. So I guess your debrief is going to have to wait. Shit. Asuma said, palming his face, I just got back, I don't want to sit through a long-ass meeting. I've got places to be, people to see. Hayate pointed his thumb deeper into the room. Kurenye's over there, cough. Asuma face faulted and stood back up abruptly. How come all of you motherf-dash? He regained his composure. Never mind. What's this one all about? Chunin exams. Cough, Hayate said, answering Asuma's question. Yeah, apparently this time around it's supposed to be some kind of big deal. Messages have been going out and coming in about it for a while now. It's that time already, huh? Asuma said, stroking his beard as his thoughts immediately flickered towards his own team. You know, I wonder how they'd stack up, to be quite honest. The room quieted down once Hiruzen walked in through the opening in the crowd that cleared for him once he entered. Standing at the head of the room he looked out at his shinobi and smiled. Good to see everyone here. I would have called this meeting sooner but many of you were away and busy, my apologies. He cleared his throat and continued, as I'm sure you've all heard by now, this is about the upcoming Chunin exam. A woman with a spiky purple ponytail that wore a mesh bodysuit and a tan trench coat spoke up. I heard that it was a total clusterfuck getting it together this time around. Hiruzen chuckled, that it was Anko, but it's finally come together. The major sticking point was the meeting place that the villages would all go to for the exams. Each village did not trust any of the other 5 major hidden villages to run an impartial competition after the last few years, so a neutral site has been established. The exams will take place in Tetsu no Kuni. The samurai of the realm have already given their consent, though there will be no room for any ulterior activities. Security will be tight the entire time. This is so no village will overstep their bounds, lest they find themselves punished by the samurai. A whistle sounded out as a random chunin spoke. That place is no joke. I can only imagine what the tests are going to be like. Indeed. Hiruzen said, there will be joint proctors from all villages for the tests so there can be no foul play nor can any village accuse the other of any. If there are any of you interested I will be accepting volunteers, and you will be dispatched to Tetsu no Kuni to prepare the exam with proctors from other villages. I anticipate this exam to be the largest in recorded history. He then smiled, which leads me to my next topic. If there are any Jounin sensei abound that wish for their teams to participate in the exams, you know what they are capable of better than anyone, and if you so desire to send them, speak now. A man with a bowl cut and a green jumpsuit with a flak jacket stepped forward. I, Might Guy, nominate my team 9, Hyuga Neji, Tenten, and Rock Lee for the upcoming Chunin exam. Their flames of youth will burn right through the infamous cold climates of the country. Here too. I nominate my team 2. And so it went around the room. Several more Jounin spoke up and entered their teams into the exams before Kurenai spoke. I, Yui Kurenai, nominate my squad, Team 8, Hyuga Hinata, Aburameshino, and Inyazuka Kiba for participation in the upcoming exams. Asuma saw and heard her do this and figured why not? If she was doing it then why shouldn't he? Lifting his hand, he voiced his own support for his team. I, Sarutobi Asuma, nominate Team 10, Yamanaka Ino, Uzumaki Naruto, and Nara Shikamaru for the Chunin exams. Kakashi decided not to be left out on the fun as well. Hatake Kakashi nominates Team 7, Akimichi Choji, Uchiha Sasuke, and Haruno Sakura for the exams in Tetsu no Kuni. Now wait just a minute. Iruka said from where he had been listening in the room, "You're nominating the rookies? Are you trying to destroy these kids?" He said in bewilderment. Asuma sighed, "I was a Chunin when I was their age. These kids are damn good, Iruka, I wouldn't send them otherwise. Do you know what's going to happen to them out there?" Iruka said, keeping up his argument, "If this thing is really going to be as big as you say it's going to be, there are going to be tons of teams with more experience, all gunning for easy prey." Kakashi spoke at that point. Well, then they're in for a rude awakening when they find out that there's nothing easy about these kids at all. Iruka opened his mouth to keep disputing, but Kakashi cut him off. "They aren't babies, Iruka, they're ninja, and we know them better than you would at this point. You're underestimating them all, just like the others at the actual exams will, and that's one reason why they won't lose. Age means nothing." Asuma put a hand on the man's shoulder. "They'll be fine, just watch. You won't even know that you're watching the same kids you were teaching in the academy, especially Naruto. Naruto's house. I'm just saying Naruto," Ino said as she stood out on Naruto's balcony with the door open so that they could hear her. "We could keep some things over here, maybe get an extra bed or two, help you pay your bills and all of that, and this could be like the official team house or something. This place is big for a place that a genin can afford. I don't really pay rent," Naruto said loud enough for her to hear him as he unpacked his stuff from his mission inside of his room. "I mean I do, but it's really cut down from what it should be. Hokage was really good about that," he said, laughing a bit. Ino turned and saw Shikamaru sitting at Naruto's kitchen table with his head down on, asleep. "Really, Shikamaru? Yeah, this is you hanging out. Sleeping on Naruto's table. I'm tired, woman," Shikamaru said, cracking an eye to get a look at her. Shaking her head, Ino walked inside from the balcony and shut the door, walking over to Naruto who was still in his room. "How are your ribs?" "Ribs are fine," Naruto said with a grin, tapping himself with his fist right where the horrible bruises had been during their last battles. "See? I'm good. I was all good by the next morning. If I wasn't, I would have said something." "How?" Ino said, not understanding much about medicine, but knowing enough from her work with senbon and poison to comprehend that people don't just heal from injured ribs over one night with some good sleep. Actually, people with broken ribs don't get good sleep, so that was another thing. You should be limping or walking gingerly all over the place. Naruto blinked in confusion. Why? The injury hurt like hell, but he had gotten over it just like he usually got over his other injuries. I don't understand. People don't just do that, Naruto. Ino explained to him, kneeling down next to him where he was sitting and unpacking as she poked him in his torso. You're telling the truth, that's actually really weird, Naruto. Nobody gets over broken ribs that fast, and yours were definitely broken. Did you use a jutsu to heal yourself? Naruto's eyes widened. Whoa, I could have been doing that. He squinted his eyes in thought, but I probably won't be able to find anything like that either. He muttered, put off at not being able to learn any ninjutsu despite having been going to the library for months now. So it wasn't a jutsu either. Shikamaru thought to himself. Naruto had gotten hit by a guy that could fell a tree with the same punch, and he had not only survived, he had gotten over it by the following morning enough to travel with no hindrances to the group. He really does heal like that. What is it? I've never even heard of anything like that before. Well. Naruto stood up and walked over to his bed, falling on it and yawning. It doesn't matter. I've still got to split Asuma-sensei's leaf. He said, fishing one out of his windbreaker pocket before jumping back up and channeling chakra to it, not getting anything for his trouble. Shikamaru got up from the table and walked in to see Naruto struggling. Well, I have a question about that. Are you only cutting it from one side or both? Naruto stopped training and looked at him like a confused deer. I mean, with your clones you should have gotten this by now, so either your element isn't really wind or you are not doing it completely right. So why don't you try whatever you were just doing, only from both sides of the leaf? Naruto just stared at him before glaring at the leaf and focusing again. After around 5 seconds of work, he cut the leaf right down the middle, and threw the scraps to the ground. I can't believe that crap. Why didn't I think of that? He yelled, grabbing his head. Shikamaru shrugged before patting him on the shoulder, because you were following orders and you didn't even think about other ways of doing it. There is never only one way to do something, Naruto, but if you'd have kept doing it that way, then eventually you probably would have gotten it once you got the skill to use enough power with your wind to cut right through it. Ino deadpanned him a look. Is it that weird that I would have picked the process up? I see him do stuff with leaves every single day. Ino's look didn't lessen a bit as Naruto marched around the room cursing about how he could have finished this 2 weeks ago if he had even just thought about doing it that way. I still have no idea how we make this team work the way it does. Shikamaru chose to ignore Naruto's ranting about how he was going to freak Asuma out tomorrow when he showed him that he could cut the leaf to respond to Ino's statement. Our dynamic is unique. I want to say unique, but I really know that dash dot. It makes absolutely no logical sense that we even survived what happened in Nami no Kuni, let alone that we keep on winning, and that you have no idea at all how we work so well together. Ino seemed to finish for him as Naruto's ranting seemed to start losing steam. Yeah, it's not like we have generational experience to work with like our parents do. Naruto's kind of the odd man out in our team makeup. I heard someone say my name, what's up? Naruto said, catching Ino's last lines, now officially done with his insane ramblings. Shikamaru looked at Naruto with an appraising eye. Maybe he is the odd man out, but there's something about Naruto that we're just not getting. He doesn't have any family history. There has to be someone that knows of his parents since he isn't a Yamanaka and he has a very particular look, and he's a good guy. Why didn't anyone ever try to take him in? Then there's this healing stuff, and all of that chakra he has. There has to be something genetic that does that, maybe a clan or something. A frown came over his face. This is going to bother me until I figure it all out, I swear. How to train your genin, tip 11. How to get the job done. The entire reason you're there to train your team in the first place is so that they can eventually get good enough to handle things all on their own. At first you will need to help them out, and in true dangerous situations you will always be the go-to shinobi, but after a while you'll have to hand over the reins sometimes in order to teach them. As a sensei you will be responsible for teaching them standard procedure and how to handle any and all suspect incidents. The most important part of teaching these things is making sure that when push comes to shove they can handle themselves even without you there. This is pretty much the point of them being promoted to Chunin, them showing this not only to you, but to everyone that could possibly promote them. Eventually you will need to take a backseat and allow them to make their own mistakes, come up with their own plans on how to do things, and you will only be there as a fail-safe just in case things go south quickly. That is your purpose as their sensei, because if you just handle all of the trouble then who's really getting better because of it? Steel sharpens steel and the cream always rises to the top. If your genin are as good as you want them to be and believe that they are, then you should let them prove it to you. By the time they graduate to Chunin you should be acting as their support, not the other way around. Chapter 15, from parts well known. You want us to what? Shikamaru asked as he and his entire team sat at the ramen bar that Naruto loved to frequent. After meeting Asuma and allowing Naruto to indulge in what was turning out to be his 7th bowl of ramen, Asuma got to talking about the next thing that they would be doing, namely something that none of them had been expecting as he handed them forms of consent for some kind of examination. You heard me right the first time. The Jonin of Team 10 said resolutely, you guys have what it takes. I want to see you guys excel, and that's why I'm entering you in the upcoming Chunin exam taking place in Tetsu no Kuni. He got the attention of Teiuchi and Ayame, who were both listening into what the man responsible for their number 1 customer was saying. You guys believe in them, right? He put his hand on the nearby Naruto's head as he was busy slurping up what seemed to be a never-ending stream of noodles into his mouth, because this is the face of a man of intensity. Naruto stopped eating long enough to stare at Asuma strangely and finished chewing anything left over in his mouth. Whatever you say, Asuma-sensei. Oh. And by the way, I can cut the leaf. Asuma then gestured to Naruto in a grandiose manner as if to say something to Shikamaru, and you don't think you guys can do it? Let me tell you something. You, Naruto, and Ino are actually way better than most genin teams I've personally seen. You guys have pretty much knocked my expectations out of the park. It's your choice though, I can only push you so hard. In the end it's the option of each of you to compete. I'm in. Naruto said with another mouthful of food. He had a month of pent-up frustration to work off after trying to cut that damn leaf every single day and getting nowhere. A good fight would do him some good as far as he was concerned, and that wasn't even glossing over the getting promoted prospect of the proposal. If he had freaked out over getting one step closer to Hokage he would have spilled his food. Naruto was not going to spill his goddamn ramen under any circumstances. He could freak out later. Ino interjected from her seat as she swirled around her food in the bowl. I'll do it too. Asuma-sensei is right, we can beat anybody. Shikamaru shook his head. Nope, no way. He asserted, being a chunin just means more work and me being stuck in more troublesome situations. It hasn't even been 6 months since I became a ninja and I think I've had enough of it already to last me a lifetime. Ino simply shrugged as she continued to eat her food. Fine. Have fun telling your mom the reason you skipped out on getting promoted when your own sensei said you could pull it off was because you want to stay a genin for life. I'm sure that'll go over great for you. She said offhandedly, a satisfied feeling coming over her when she saw Shikamaru freeze in place. That was dirty, Ino. Shikamaru said with a sigh, why do you have to bring her into it? Even though you're absolutely right, couldn't you just let me do something without thinking all about it for once? Nope. Ino chirped brightly, you're the brains of the team, so if you're not thinking, which one of us will? Naruto raised his hand as he continued to eat. Exactly. And that's why Shikamaru has to do it. I like living. Oi. Naruto said, finishing off his bowl of ramen. Now I've been getting over dash. Hold on. He stopped his own speech so that he could spend around 15 seconds drinking down the leftover broth in his bowl, sighing contently when he polished it off before continuing, now I've been getting over that Naruto is stupid thing since the day we became a team. I want some credit here. Ino smirked and rested her hand in her cheek, then say something smart that is actually useful to what we're talking about. Right now. Naruto squinted his eyes and crossed his arms in thought, Tetsu no Kuni is cold. Really cold. Duh. Ino remarked, it's so fucking far north, how wouldn't it be? Keep trying, Naruto. She said, twirling a lock of hair around her finger. Naruto grumbled before tapping his head with his chopsticks, fine, Tetsu no Kuni doesn't have any shinobi. Is that enough for you? They have samurai, real samurai, not the thugs with shitty swords that I beat up in Nami no Kuni in like 6 seconds. They can use chakra too, just not like a ninja can. Did you know that? Ino stared at him before shaking her head. There, so kiss my ass. I knew something you didn't. Ha. But now I do know it, so that just adds on to the amount of information that I already had, thus still keeping my intelligence ahead of yours. Ino said with a sly smile. God damn it. Naruto said, bouncing his head off of the counter, I just can't ever win. He lifted his head to reveal him crying anime tears. I'm smart, really smart. You'll all see. Teiuchi chuckled at Naruto's animated reaction while Ayame rubbed Naruto's head consolingly. It's okay, Naruto, you're sharp, You're sharper than you used to be for sure, and it's definitely noticeable. Don't give up, Konoha wasn't built in a day after all. Naruto grabbed his hair and exclaimed, why do people keep saying that about me getting smarter? Why are you guys following me? Naruto asked as he found himself being followed by Shikamaru and Chuji. Teams 7 and 10 ran into each other, and once Ino and Sakura started getting into it, Naruto, Shikamaru, and Chuji decided to slip away and enjoy their day off. Sasuke, the reason behind the two girls arguing, found time to slip away shortly into the conflict to head home, choosing not to follow the boys or stay around the girls. Because. Chuji said as he took a second to throw some chips from the bag he was carrying into his mouth, we have the day off to think about if we want to go to the Chunin exams next month and we don't have anything to do. Shikamaru followed up on his friend's statement, did you really think we'd stay there with Ino and Sakura fighting over Sasuke like usual? If you've seen it once, you've seen it a million times. You'd think they'd be sick of it by now. But they're not. Naruto added, all I'm going to do is hang out with Shiho-chan for a bit since I never told her I left on a mission or came back. It's going to be boring for you guys. Chuji shook his head, not really. If she's a friend of yours, why not be a friend of ours too? Besides, if we didn't then we wouldn't be doing anything today anyway. Which I would probably prefer if I'm going to be doing all of this Chunin exam stuff. Shikamaru said, walking with a slouch and his hands in his pockets. This is going to suck. Why is everything moving so fast for us? Do rookies even get chances to be Chunin? Naruto turned and grinned at him. Maybe it's because we're just that damn good. Naruto said as they reached the doorstep to Shiho's home. I mean, of course we are. Who cares if we're rookie genin going into the stupid Chunin exams, we're going to kick ass, and do you know why? Because dash. Just as Naruto reached to knock on the door it flew open and smashed him in the face, sending him flying back. Ow. Shiho stood with her hand on the doorknob and a frantic look on her face. Did you just say you were going to be in the upcoming Chunin exams? She asked all three of them. Shikamaru looked over at Chuji who shrugged. Yeah? Why does it really matter? Shiho rushed over to Naruto and grabbed him by the collar of his windbreaker as she dragged him inside, in the house, right now you guys. She said to Chuji and Shikamaru who were both standing outside in confusion of what was going on, we have things to talk about. Both boys looked at each other before deciding to do what the crazy girl asked of them, heading inside and navigating her maze of bookcases to reach the table where she had deposited Naruto to sit. They sat down as well to fill the quaint little table, so. Naruto said, holding his nose from where he had been hit by the door, what's the big deal? Yeah, Chunin exams. You don't get it. Shiho said before laughing sheepishly, well never mind, you guys aren't privy to the stuff that I know so I guess I overreacted. She cleared her throat and took up a lecturing pose. If you're telling me the truth then this will mark the first time in 5 years that a rookie team will take part, let alone more than one rookie team. No pressure though. Shikamaru said sarcastically, man this is going to be more troublesome than I thought. Shiho looked over at Shikamaru and blushed slightly before returning to her point, why yes, well these exams are supposed to be rather harsh. I'm afraid I don't know too much about the process of examination however. I never really took the exam you see. She said, adjusting her glasses on her face before pointing at herself, I'm not much of a fighter at all. No team would really take me and risk being killed. With hearing that, Shikamaru threw his hands into the air, and we can die too? This just sounds better and better all the time. Why the hell are we taking these exams? Chuji's fingers were nervously tapping the tabletop, it really doesn't seem like something that most people want to find themselves involved in. Chuji commented in agreement of Shikamaru. We'll be fine. Naruto dismissed the worries of the other two fresh genin there with him, I still want to go, that's definitely for sure. It's the chance of a lifetime. He said excitedly, how many times am I going to get a chance like this? Actually Uzumaki-kun, the next exam will happen again in 6 months. Shiho interjected informatively. 6 months. Naruto said with a raised eyebrow, to hell with 6 months, I want to do it now. This is going to be so cool. We're going to get to fight so many new people, see new stuff in a new country. Run into all kinds of new troublesome situations. Shikamaru said, still not looking forward to the effort that the exams would undoubtedly force him to exert just to make it back home in one piece. New country. Chuji said with his eyes glazing over at the thought of something, all kinds of new food that I haven't tried yet. And we're the main point of the Chunin exams which is apparently some kind of big deal so you know if we do well they'll totally feed us with a huge feast. I'm in. Naruto could still see that Shikamaru was apprehensive over the whole Chunin exams thing as he threw an arm over his shoulder. Chill out Shikamaru, if you don't think we can do it we still have a few weeks to get ready. You're a kid from a clan just like Chuji, you have tons of ready-made things you can study. I'm the one that has to find my own ways to train. With that, Shikamaru's mind turned to something he had been thinking about with Ino after they left Naruto's house the day before. Flashback, yesterday. Ino looked rather apprehensive as she walked with Shikamaru back to their respective homes in the setting sun. I still think Naruto should have gone to the hospital when we got back to the village. I swear that he should be coughing blood, breathing hard, or something you know. It hasn't even been 2 days since that fight with those guys. Shikamaru nodded before throwing his own thought in, Could it be a Kekai Genkai? You mean like Sasuke-kun's Sharingan? Ino wondered, getting a sigh out of Shikamaru for bringing up Sasuke. Well, we don't know anything about his family lineage, and neither does he now that you mention it. It would explain a lot about him. Shikamaru added, trying to narrow down the little mystery that had been building in his head, the whisker marks on his cheeks that look like clan markings, the shit ton of chakra he has no matter what, the healing thing that he has, tons of stuff would be explained like that. Ino racked her brain trying to think before growling as she held her head. I don't know any clans with abilities like that in Konoha, but Naruto's been here for as long as I can remember, hasn't he? Born and raised. She then blinked. Well, not really raised, but you know what I'm saying. Any one of the abilities that Naruto has would be something that we would have heard of from prominent clans in the village before. Shikamaru thought to himself as he and Ino kept walking, it's just weird. He doesn't know anything about his family? Nothing at all? No one ever told him? He had records in the hospital of his parentage, everyone does, even orphans. Hasn't he ever just tried asking anyone? Ino wondered. Who would he ask? Shikamaru replied, if no one ever really tried to take care of him, then who would know enough to be able to tell him anything? Besides, he's probably heard people tell him they didn't know anything so many times he just stopped asking. Ino could only think of not knowing anything about where she came from. She loved her family and was proud of her clan's history and the respect that they got. She couldn't possibly begin to wonder what it would be like to not even know who her parents were, let alone not having all of those other things. That's really terrible. She said honestly as she thought about how he lived in that apartment of his all alone for who knows how many years. There's got to be something though. Shikamaru said as he continued to think, why do things have to be so troublesome whenever the subject is Naruto? The guy is just one big headache, but he's our big headache, I guess. Definitely. Ino said with a smile, somehow we'll find something. He came from someone somewhere, and there's an explanation for the things he can do as well. How hard could it really be to run something down? End flashback. And then there's the way a lot of adults in the village treat him like he isn't even there. Shikamaru thought, people know something, but they're really not willing to let anything slip, especially around kids like us. Shikamaru decided to plant the seed in some minds at the moment, especially since the super smart girl with actual time to look something like this up was there. You know Naruto, you have some weird abilities like all of the chakra for no reason, the ability to heal so fast, all of that stuff. There's got to be some reason for all of that. He then noticed Shiho faintly tense up out of the corner of his eye. Uzumaki-kun's a normal guy to me. Shiho said, waving her hands as if to dismiss Shikamaru, he must just have good genetics or something like that. That's exactly the point. Shikamaru said, pointing at his head, I'm smart just like pretty much every other guy in my family, Choji's big just like everyone in his. Naruto has tons of things that make no sense for him to have just developed for no reason. All of that stuff didn't just come from nowhere. Hey, yeah. Choji said, poking himself in the stomach, it's definitely a clan thing, Naruto. If you really have chakra like that, then it's not just something that happens, it's a genetic thing, like someone in your family. Naruto felt hopeful that he'd find out something for once, but he then crossed his arms and squinted his eyes. Yeah, maybe, but Asuma-sensei said that I have more chakra than, well, anyone really. He didn't even name the person with the next amount of chakra in the village, so that doesn't say anything. Besides, I don't know too much about the clans here, but if there was a clan with people that could do the stuff I can do in Konoha, I'd have known about it. He said with a frown. Other than the Hokage, Naruto never knew where to ask about anything regarding his lineage, and no one ever gave him an answer. Shiho didn't know how relieved to feel over the part of them thinking that Naruto's abilities stemmed from a clan instead of from something else. But even the fact that they were going to be searching for some inkling of what gave him his healing abilities and massive chakra reserves was rather precarious. It was clear that Shikamaru wasn't dumb, and it wouldn't take him very long to hit a brick wall in thinking through Konoha's clans. If it took longer than 10 minutes for him to drop the whole clan thing altogether, she'd have been shocked, and then he would turn his attention to other ways Naruto could have had abilities like he had. The question would eat at him and he would search for some kind of answer. A guy like that hated not knowing things and would happily try to look for the reason behind his confusion. It wouldn't be long at all, no it wouldn't. Oh, why do the cute ones always have to be so much trouble? Shiho thought about Shikamaru. Meanwhile, Naruto's brain was working in a different direction on the matter at hand. Hey Shiho-chan, do you have a book or something on the known clans? She reacted in surprise at being spoken to, but quickly recovered to hear the rest of what Naruto wanted to say. Not just in Konoha though, any book of clans from anywhere in the world might help. He let off a chuckle, but anyone actually paying attention could tell that there wasn't any actual humor behind it. I mean, at this point who knows where my parents are actually from, just that they wound up here somehow. Shiho looked at him with a sad smile. Sure thing Uzumaki-kun. I'll see if I can check something out the next time I'm there. Leave everything to me, you just focus on getting yourself ready for the Chunin exams. This was also twofold. Even if they found Naruto's clan, if it even existed, she had no idea, but it was worth a look if for no other reason than to possibly give him some perspective. But even if they found Naruto's clan, that would steer them away from possibly digging up the Kyuubi information somehow. As loath as she was to follow the law, it was still the law, and breaking it would get her locked away. I still don't know why Hokage-sama is keeping this from him. If anyone needs to know, it actually would be him. It's really not fair, it's like some kind of inside joke. Hokage Tower. Asuma poked his head inside of Hiruzen's office and looked around before resting his eyes on his elderly father. Can we talk for a minute, or are you busy, Dad? Hiruzen smiled and placed his hands on his desk. Come on in, Asuma. I always have a free moment for anyone's concerns. Asuma nodded and walked inside, standing in front of the desk that was the clear focal point of the office. I've got to tell him. He saw Hiruzen's eyes meet his own. There's no reason not to by now. Even when he used it in Wave, he was still in control. He never tried to attack me once, only the person he had been slated to fight. Then why can't you wait for just a little bit longer? The old grizzled cage-level shinobi asked his son. He explicitly remembered telling Asuma that there would be someone along very shortly that would be able to tell Naruto and answer any questions on the matter that he would have. Someone that really wanted to meet Naruto too. I made a promise, Asuma. I haven't broken it myself by telling Naruto of his burden yet, even though I probably should have when he graduated, also that I could keep the promise I made the man that intends to tell him. Asuma was still not a fan of keeping this from the boy. Then why did you let me enter my team in the Chunin exams? This is a really volatile situation if you're still not going to let me tell him. Hiruzen stood up and turned to look outside of the window of his office. Because you said that they could do it. By now it is more than clear that Naruto has never had contact with the Kyuubi, that even when he draws on the power in desperation, that he is never truly under its will. And also because the man that desires to be here to reveal the Kyuubi to Naruto will be here before the teams are ever to set out for Tetsu no Kuni. That's not exactly a good thing, Dad. Asuma remarked, grabbing his temple and rubbing it. The last thing the team needs going into the exams is him fretting over something else completely unrelated. Why is it taking so long for this guy to get back here to tell Naruto anyway, and who is it in the first place? Hiruzen turned again to face Asuma. The man is perhaps the most powerful shinobi in Konoha, and the reason he hasn't been able to return sooner to tell Naruto himself is because of the long-term information gathering missions he has been on. Name? Asuma insisted. If this guy thought that he could just walk on in and tell his student something that by all rights he should have been able to reveal as soon as he had earned Naruto's trust, then the guy had better have been a demigod in this village. Jiraiya. Hiruzen said in response. Bullshit. Asuma said skeptically, why the hell would Jiraiya of the Sun give a rat's ass about telling Naruto anything? Who was the person that originally placed the seal on Naruto that held the Kyuubi back in the first place? Hiruzen asked him before answering the obvious question. The Yondaime Hokage, as everyone knows, and who was the instructor of the man? Asuma scoffed at the moderately explanatory answer, but he doesn't know Naruto. Naruto doesn't know him either. At the very least, can I be there when he tells him if I can't be the one to do it myself? He's not going to take it well at all. Hiruzen nodded in consent. I never said that you couldn't be there, Asuma, I just said that Jiraiya was the one that wished to tell him. Good. Asuma said, slightly satisfied with how things turned out before his mind snapped back into focus mode. No, wait a minute, there's still tons of things that don't make sense. Why was it even Naruto? Why does he have the Kyuubi? That's one thing I've always wanted to know. And after Jiraiya-sama tells Naruto, then what? What happens then? Is he just going to deliver the message the way he planned to after his student's death and leave me and Naruto to deal with it ourselves? Hiruzen shook his head, but was able to say that he was happy that Asuma was so defensive of Naruto and that he was suspicious. It meant that he actually cared for him. That was good. If Asuma was like this, then the boys' own team must have felt the same way. I can assure you that Jiraiya would do no such thing. If it would make you feel better, I can inform you of the moment that I learn he's in Konoha so that you can talk with him about this. That sounded good enough to Asuma. This way he could actually gauge Jiraiya's intentions on why he wanted to be the one to talk to Naruto about the Kyuubi, and maybe he could find out some other things as well. Alright, Dad. But when do you think he'll get here? Well, before it's time to go. Hiruzen informed him, just go about as if you were preparing them like usual until Jiraiya arrives. If your team is to go to Tetsu no Kuni, then they'll need to be adequately prepared for just about anything in this exam. I'm sure you know that. Asuma nodded and began walking away. Oh, they'll be ready, just you wait and see. All I'm worried about is Ino and Naruto finding a way to whip Shikamaru into shape, but they should still manage to pull that off. Hiruzen smiled as his son left his office. Of course. I'm looking forward to seeing what all of the young Konoha shinobi in the exams are capable of, especially the rookies. You can drop in anytime, Asuma, and take care of your team. I always do, Dad. Asuma said as he shut the door behind him. The next day, Team 10 training ground. Asuma flipped through all 3 signed consent forms in a satisfied manner. He knew they would have accepted, for different reasons, but that was neither here nor there. The important thing was that he could now officially begin whipping their asses into full shape for the Chunin exams, and with Naruto's newfound completion of leaf splitting he could find something new to do. Not the final exercise, since that might be too much right now, and the next few weeks would be him getting final preparations all set up for his team. It wasn't the time for a lengthy training exercise. I'm glad to see that you're all planning on doing this thing. Asuma said honestly to his crop of genin as they all sat under the shady tree that marked the center of their training field. Now there are a lot of people that are going to resent you, from other villages and your own as well, because you guys are going to the exams, but just remember that this exam is to show your skill, and your maturity as shinobi. Now tell me, what do you guys plan on working on until then? Ino raised her hand. I planned on working on my first fatal poison to add into the mix that I have already. She sighed to herself. It's going to suck building an immunity to it. And I'm going to work my ways of distributing my poisons too, since I'm kind of bad at throwing senbon right now. I'll come up with different ways to use them. You'll get it. Asuma said encouragingly as he turned to Naruto. What about you? As if I didn't know. Naruto grinned and held his fist up. Well, I finished cutting the leaf. I did it 3 more times before I got here, so I was wondering if I could have something else to do with that. Other than that, I've got nothing. Asuma nodded. I'll show you how to use your wind chakra to enhance your weapons, like for what I did with the trench knives when we first talked about your element. Naruto didn't need to know the last exercise right now anyway. That was only for if he wanted to create his own jutsu involving wind. As he was now, at least Asuma could teach him some wind ninjutsu when he felt Naruto was ready to learn them. As Naruto beamed at the chance of learning how to make his weapons cut through rock, Asuma turned to Shikamaru. And you? Shikamaru answered in his usual uncaring manner. I have about 6 different battle plans and team techniques worked out for all 3 of us. He saw Asuma giving him a look that was saying, is that it? And I'm working with Dad to improve my skills with the clan jutsu. Ways to hit it, ways to sneak it on in tough one-on-one situations, bluffs, things I can do by myself once I have an opponent, things like that. Asuma held up 3 fingers. You have 3 weeks, 21 days, to get together what you all think you need for the exams. A few of your classmates, Team 7 and Team 8, will be there, and I'll tell you right now, once it slips that you all are rookies, you're going to have every last participant gunning for you guys. He then smirked intently, but it's too bad for them that you guys aren't normal rookies. Hell, you guys aren't normal genin period. And whoever tried to pull anything against you will be going home sorely disappointed in their choice of target. Damn right. Naruto said with a grin still on his face as he sprang to his feet. And he still had 3 more weeks to go before he could even really begin speculating about what the Chunin exams were going to be about. I'm ready today, let's go kick some ass. Ino rolled her eyes and tugged on the back of Naruto's windbreaker, pulling him back to the ground. Calm down, hothead. Save it for the training. As Naruto turned to glare at Ino, who wasn't looking as if she would back down from her previous action, Shikamaru took a look at the red swirl that was emblazoned on the back of Naruto's top and his eyes widened. Why had he never paid attention to this before? Oh yeah, because he saw that damn symbol every single day. Even when they were in the academy and Naruto wore his old bulky clothes, he had it on the back, and every Konoha ninja that walked around in flak jackets had that marking on the backs of them as well. He just figured it was a Konoha thing, but still, nothing was that simple. Why wouldn't it be a leaf? A swirl didn't have anything to do with the village. Asuma. Shikamaru said, planning on asking his question, what's the swirl on the back of your jacket mean? Naruto has it too and I never really got what it meant. Asuma looked at the genius boy and scratched his head, kid, I don't know. It was one of those things that was glossed over in the academy for one of your little history tests. I'm sure I've heard of the reason, but I've never thought about it. I don't know why it's on Naruto's clothes. Shouldn't you know what the hell it means? Ino pointed at Naruto and Shikamaru, you're talking to the kid that almost failed and the guy that was right behind him in that department. Come to think of it, I don't think I paid much attention either. She tapped her chin as she thought about it. It definitely means something though, I just don't remember what. Asuma stood with his arms crossed. Well, you guys can think about it later. Right now we need to get some work in to get you ready to roll when the time comes. Now you three have 10 minutes to come up with a way to fight me and win. He said before using Shunshin to leave the area. Shikamaru groaned, back to the old grind it seemed. Naruto. Naruto nodded and released a pulse to see if Asuma was still around. He'd never let them forget it if he caught them the way he did one time. They didn't check to see he was there before planning. Fine. Let's brainstorm, guys. As Naruto scooted closer to soundboard ideas and take in what would eventually be the final plan, Ino looked around for Asuma before addressing her teammates. Are we going to be getting beat up a lot for the next month? Probably. Both Naruto and Shikamaru said plainly, having accepted their painful fates. Ino only cried pitifully at it in denial. 2 days later, Naruto's apartment. Why the hell are you guys here all the time now? Naruto asked as he poured himself a glass of milk. The bruises on his face from his day of training fading away due to his lack of current violent activity. You guys have actual houses with actual food and beds of your own. At this point he yelled down towards his room where Ino was resting in his bed, that you could be sleeping in instead. Shikamaru was in a chair seated at the table with his head down. Your house is so much closer than ours. Come on, Naruto, Asuma kicked the crap out of us again today. The genius boy smirked. The best part was when you thought you had gotten a grip on him and then he knocked you down and peeled you off like gum. Ha ha ha. Naruto laughed humorlessly. What about the part where he threw Ino in the path of your shadow and then kicked you in the face and knocked you out? That was priceless. Shut up. Shikamaru said half-heartedly. Naruto smelled the milk in the glass to ensure it was good before shrugging and downing it. Make me. He said as he caught a breath after drinking. Troublesome. Shikamaru said, letting the issue drop at that. Immediately after that, a loud series of bangs came through from Naruto's front door. Get the door. Kiss my ass. You jerks don't live here so you shouldn't care. Naruto replied, lifting his glass up, I'm thirsty. The door can wait. He said as the bangs sounded out again. Ino's voice echoed from Naruto's room irritably, one of you answer the dim front door. If I have to get up I'm going to dash dot. You're not going to do a damn thing. I'm getting it. Naruto shouted as he slammed his glass on the table by Shikamaru's head and stomped to the front door, swinging it open with an agitated look on his face. Yeah. And immediately had a book shoved into his face. Meh. Found it, Uzumaki-kun. Shiho said as she pushed the book back against Naruto's face and made her way into the apartment, shutting the door behind her with her foot. I told you I'd get something and that you could count on me. She shoved him back excitedly until Naruto tripped over something on the floor that he couldn't see and fell. Whoops. Sorry about that. Shiho apologized with a blush for her rash action. Shikamaru had no choice but to pay attention to all of the commotion. Found what exactly? He asked. Also note that I'm tired, So whatever it is you came over here to tell him better be something you can communicate with just words because I'm not getting up. Alright. Shiho said as Naruto sat up on his floor to see what she was there for. I found something on Uzumaki-kun's clan. It's really quite remarkable. Naruto's eyes widened. I have a clan. Shikamaru sat up at full attention. He has a clan. Naruto has a clan. Ino asked from Naruto's room, still not getting up. Shiho nodded, yes, apparently dash. Wait, why is your team all here Uzumaki-kun? She stopped explaining to inquire about that. Hell if I know. Naruto replied before getting excited, but what about me having a clan? Let's get back to that, come on, tell me. Are they cool? Are they in the village? Where are they? Can I find one of them now? Clan meant family. Family meant not being alone anymore. A team was great, but when everyone went home Naruto still only had himself. Ino, Shikamaru, and Asuma had their own lives and families. Shiho sat on the floor with him and showed him the book she had brought along. On the page she had opened there sat the spiral pattern that sat on the back of Naruto's clothes and on the back of the more elite ninjas' flak jackets, right here. This is your clan crest. Shikamaru actually found this interesting enough to get up from his chair and walk over to sit down by them to read himself. Something that put a large blush on Shiho's face as he plopped down right next to her since the book was turned her way so that she could read what she had found to Naruto. Hey Naruto, this says that your clan has their own hidden village, Uzushiagakur. No way. Naruto exclaimed. He couldn't believe it. Not only did he have a clan, they had their own village like Konoha. Why the fuck didn't he know this any sooner? Someone had to know something about this, it was an entire village that his clan ran, what else? Shiho, happy that she was able to help Naruto find something relevant on his surname quickly, got right back to informing him on his family. Our village and their village had a very close-knit relationship, which is why we wear the seal on the back of our flak jackets. She adjusted her glasses before reading on, and they had a specialty that's very rare in our time as well, they were so good at it, it was something that they were feared for. Fuinjutsu. Shikamaru let out a whistle, sealing techniques. Good luck with learning that stuff. Shiho nodded, it's another ninja art that I didn't go over with you because it's not easy at all to get the concept of. She explained to Naruto who was looking at her with squinted eyes. By this time even Ino had made her way out from Naruto's room, standing over the others to hear what was going on. No genin does Fuinjutsu beyond basic item sealing because it's not like nin dash, tai dash, or genjutsu. It requires intimate knowledge of chakra, time, space, all kinds of things. Naruto frowned visibly, meh, so it's another, I'm stupid, never mind teaching it, thing isn't it? The silence seemed to be his answer, I don't care, if it's my clan specialty then shouldn't I know how to do at least a little bit of it? I want to learn it. Right after saying that, a small book was tossed to him that he deftly caught. What's this? Shiho smiled, I knew you'd say that so I checked this out for you. The person that wrote that is the leading living expert of Fuinjutsu in the village. No need to thank me. It was a small, handwritten brown book that seemed a little worn and felt a little over 200 pages, but was still completely readable. The hastily scribbled out title said, hey, you're not a genius. Who cares? Read this and you won't suck at Fuinjutsu. Also quickly scrawled out was the name of the author, a man named Jiraiya. Naruto held the book up with a deadpan look on his face. First of all, this title sucks so hard. Second of all, it looks like I could have written this myself. Are you serious with this, Shiho-chan? 100%. Shiho asserted resolutely with a firm nod, I couldn't go through it myself, but the person that wrote it is the real deal. There's no one better in Konoha to learn Fuinjutsu from, this is definitely what you want. The art is a lot of theory, but with your imagination I'm sure you can work it out. Fuinjutsu is a lot of mental understanding. Mind stuff. Naruto blinked at her blankly, my mind is scary. Then you should love this stuff. Shiho replied with a smirk. She reached over and tapped the book, don't let the little bit of ragged parts put you down on reading it. It's just a little rough around the edges, but read it cover to cover. I'm sure there's lots of good stuff inside of it. Kind of like you, yeah. Even though it was just a book, Naruto really couldn't literally judge it by its cover. People did that to him all the time, and if Shiho said that it would help, then damn it, he'd give it his best shot to make it work for him. As he thought about how he would use the book, he found Ino had thrown herself over his back as she gently took the book from his hands to look at it herself. So this Rinki-Dink book is going to help Naruto learn Fuinjutsu? Why would a book like that be in the library anyway? Shiho shrugged. It isn't a clan secret book, as the author is just a shinobi without a clan. He committed it to the library, it's public domain. He's just an unselfish shinobi that put his knowledge to paper and it wound up in our archives. It had taken almost 6 months, but damned if there wasn't something in there that Naruto hadn't picked up in addition to his Nabakan scroll. Having friends everywhere certainly paid off. It doesn't matter what the thing looks like, Ino. Naruto commented as he took it back from her, getting a whine of disappointment from her. If this thing can help me, then I don't care. Ino nodded in agreement. True, but is there any more about your clan? Wouldn't more people know your name if they were that powerful to be feared for sealing? Shikamaru had by now taken the book and had scanned through it, only to frown as he kept going forward. This book is very old, you guys. Like, Daime Hokage old. He said as he schemed through the year it was published. Shiho scratched her cheek. Well, there wasn't anything in any more current issues of clans of notability in the shinobi world. This is a backlog. None of this was making what he was about to say any easier to Shikamaru. Did the other later volumes have the clans in this book in it? Shiho nodded. Yes, but the most recent one didn't have the Uchiha clan in it. Shikamaru sighed. What's the matter? Shikamaru rubbed the bridge of his nose. I was afraid of that. He looked over at Naruto apologetically. This book is called The Quintessential Shinobi Almanac Volume 2. These books keep up with clans that are current factors in the current world at the time the books are written. The books only got bigger as time went on, didn't they? He asked Shiho, getting another sad nod from her as she understood what he was implying. Clans don't fall out of prestige, and they wouldn't have been excluded from the book unless unless they don't exist anymore. Naruto finished for him with a sad look on his face as he pulled his legs towards his chest. Damn it. If the books only got bigger, then it was like an almanac that compounded information, only taking out irrelevant things that would have fallen out of use. Sasuke's clan wasn't in the most recent volume. His own clan stopped being in the books a long time ago. In an attempt to console him, Ino wrapped her arms around his shoulders from behind in a hug. I'm sorry, Naruto. You were so close. It was terrible that such a nice guy like Naruto kept getting such shoddy breaks in his life. It explained at least why it wasn't taught in the academy. It wasn't relevant, and it wasn't close enough to home to be labeled as history that they needed to know along with everything else they were learning. At least they knew now. Naruto's whiskered face kept the dejection on it as his eyes stayed locked on the crest affixed to the almanac page. They slowly drifted towards the handwritten book in his hand, and his blue eyes shone over in determination. This is actually something good, though. I have a clan. He said with a short laugh, a real honest-to-goodness clan. Like your clan Ino, or your clan Shikamaru. Even like Sasuke teams. All I have to do is bring it back. Easy. He said with a careless shrug as a smile affixed itself to his face. I was going to be Hokage anyway, and what's a better way to make people know how kick-ass you and your bloodline are than by pulling that off? Ino found his attitude to be infectious, as if the mood in the room just swung back positively. With all of your weirdo abilities like the healing and your chakra stores to go with the Fuinjutsu, if you can learn that stuff, why wouldn't they? Shiho laughed nervously at the mention of Naruto's pre-existing abilities once she saw Shikamaru narrow his eyes and read over the part about the Uzumaki clan again. Shikamaru's brow furrowed once he schemed through it again. Wait. None of the things that Naruto can do were glossed over in here except for the strong life force part that kind of explains some things, but not the healing. And they don't have his cheek markings either. They don't have any markings. We're still all missing something here. He thought to himself. Shiho took her advantage and shut the book as she got up off of the floor and dusted her dress of, well, I have to go, Uzumaki-kun, Shikamaru-kun, Yamanaka-san. She said abruptly, I hope the book helped at least a little bit, and I hope the Fuinjutsu text works out for you too. Bye. She called out as she made her way to the door and slipped out, leaving the 3 teammates sitting on Naruto's apartment floor. Shikamaru watched her leave with a watchful eye. that was weird, and really suspicious. She reacted to us talking about Naruto's abilities. Does she know something? Why does this all have to be so troublesome? He thought as he stood up off of the floor and cracked his neck. Well, I guess I'll see you tomorrow, Naruto. I have to go home before my mom raises a fuss about where I've been. Ino got up as well, planning to leave with Shikamaru and head home. I have to go too, Naruto. Are you going to be okay by yourself? She asked in a concerned voice to her fellow blonde. Hopefully none of this brought him down. I'll be fine, Ino. Naruto said as he stared at the book still in his hands. I'll see you guys tomorrow for sure. He couldn't tell what it was, but just looking at the book made him want to read it. Maybe it was the smart-ass title calling out to him, who knew? He looked up with a grin on his face. I'm going to get started with this. If my clan were masters of Fuinjutsu, then I will be too. It's a tradition, Dateba yo. As his teammates left him alone in his home, Naruto flipped the book cover open. I'll make everybody proud. My clan, Iruka-sensei, Hokage-jiji, Asuma-sensei, Shiho-chan, Shikamaru, Ino, all of you. Hey, you're not a genius. Who cares? Read this and you won't suck at Fuinjutsu, by Jiraiya. Acknowledgements in a foreword. To Sarutobi-sensei for teaching me how to be a man, and for not outing me for my, shall we say, healthy interest in the fairer sex. You know what I'm talking about, guys that know what I'm talking about. Yeah. To my lovely female teammate who shall remain unnamed in the case of this book getting the reader killed due to my teachings. You didn't tear my sake off that time I peeped on you and you caught me. Thanks for that. To Namikaze Minato for believing in me, respecting the things that I say, and for not telling me that my first book sucked. Thanks, kid, you're an all-around good man and a hell of a student. If I ever find one half as good on all fronts as you, I'll take him in a heartbeat. To the letter Q for being exotic. To Sanshao no Hanzu for not ending me and my teammates' miserable lives all those years ago on that wretched battlefield near Omegakure. Thanks for that. Without you not killing me, this book would never have come into existence. To broccoli for smelling like farts before you eat it and for being difficult to spell. To Konohagakure no Sato for recognizing how badass I am, and respecting my sexy sage talents. Also for having hot springs that are agonizingly easy to peek on, and for having the sexiest women on earth thoroughly populating your shinobi forces to go along with them. I swear to Kami, it has to be a prerequisite to enter the academy. They've got to have genealogists screening the little girls to find out which ones will become smoking hot bombshells when they grow up and the ones that do are let right in the door. Nothing less than 8s all across the board. No joke. Okay, if my actual first foray into the wonderful world of literature is anything to go by, then this book will suck in a storytelling sense, which is good because I'm not telling a fucking story, I'm here to fill your obviously empty head with all kinds of smart things. It doesn't matter how I write so long as you understand what I'm writing, so I don't have to write like a proper author. By virtue of that, shut your lips and get ready to learn, lads and lasses. Who am I kidding? If a girl was actually reading this, she probably dropped this book at the acknowledgements. Pop those bifocals on your faces, you blind little brats, it's learning time. Now if you were to ask anyone that knows better, they would tell you that I'm a grade A bad motherfucking shinobi, although you couldn't since most of those people are dead. If you asked me personally for my honest opinion on myself, I'm nothing special. No natural advantages or presets towards battle, no genius anything. Just a hard-working guy that took advantage of the things provided to him. And this book was written for guys like me. Guys with guts. If you're a little punkus that can't see anything through to the end, then you've wasted your time picking this up, go do something easy. Despite saying all of that, the one thing I know I'm good at, damn good at, is Fuinjutsu. Say what you will about me if you've met me, when I say something about sealing you had better shut the hell up and listen. This is more than scribbling on something and making a hand seal or two. You will have this ingrained in your head by the time you get through this manual. You will be seeing sealing arrays in your head 24/7, and you will have nightmares about fucking up and mutating yourself with potential backlash. You will make so many brush strokes in practice that you will swear you're giving yourself arthritis by doing this. You will see things that no one else sees in everyday things because you know the potential each thing will have for sealing. Your head will be filled with the most asinine pipe dreams of what you can do with seals, and you'll spend years dicking around with a design as a hobby or side project just to toss it when you get bored and find something cooler to work on with seals. Everyone that masters seals does, so you will too. In this book you will learn all of these things, and in addition to that the life lessons that can only be taught by a man with decades of experience in the field as a seasoned, battle-hardened shinobi. This book will make you a man, even if you're a girl. You scared yet? If you're still reading and taking this seriously, then you're crazy. The good kind of crazy. The kind of crazy that might be able to finish the things I've got set for you in this book. In other words, you're my kind of crazy. If you can pass the quiz on the coming pages, then feel free to partake in the wisdom that lays within the annals of my epic tome. That is, if you pass. This test will be the most widely covering test you'll ever take, with questions you won't expect, and questions that you think you won't be able to answer. But it must be done. If you fail, then you will be locked out of this book due to a seal I set that will tally your score from your pencil strokes and will take your blood upon completion. You cannot skip the test, as the pages after will be blank until the test is completed. You have one shot, so don't fuck it up. If you pass, I'll be glad to call you my student by proxy. Good luck. That's it for part 6. Thank you for watching and see you on the next video.